Growing up on the left-hand side of the spectrum, I had no idea why people would actually need a gun. I mean, wouldn't the world be a lot more peaceful with far fewer deaths if we just abolished firearms altogether? Wouldn't that be paradise? The question that I'm going to answer is, after the Uvalde massacre, has my opinion on gun rights changed? When actually faced with the realities of making a living and protecting oneself, I quickly found myself discarding my childish utopian visions of the world. My attitude about gun rights shifted into neutral. I understood the arguments in favor of the Second Amendment, but I still dreamed of a world where guns would be completely unnecessary. Some countries want only their police armed. Now imagine that arrangement in America during the summer George Floyd riots of 2020. Tasked with protecting the public, the police stood down and let the criminals go to town. Or rather, destroy it. The Democrats even went so far as to request donations from the public to bail out the evildoers who were actually arrested in Minnesota during the George Floyd riots. Thank you very much to now sitting Vice President Kamala Harris for having pushed this agenda. The Blue City leaders, for their own selfish political gain, allowed businesses to be torched and looted. Innocent citizens were attacked with impunity, and 30-something lives were lost during the riots, like former police captain David Dorn, killed by a BLM thug in St. Louis. Innocent citizens who dared to protect themselves when violently attacked, like, for example, Jake Gardner of Nebraska, who was being choked and beaten after he tried to stop a thug assailant who was destroying his family business. Finally, to save his own life, used his firearm, killing the perp. And the local district attorney, after stating that it was a clear-cut case of self-defense, succumbed to woke pressure and charged Jake with murder. Whereupon Jake, unfortunately, ended his own life. Or the McCloskeys of St. Louis, attacked viciously by the state and city attorney Kim Gardner for protecting their property by brandishing their rifles in front of their own home, on their property, in front of a riotous crowd, to let them know that there would be a potential loss of life should they try to destroy their castle. In these cases, and many more, the politicians instructed the police to stand down, and it was the law-abiding citizens who took it on the chin. Then you have Uvalde, where the police, who were sworn to protect and serve, were instructed by their own chief, once again, to stand down, while a man who had actually previously fired bullets at them stormed into an elementary school and began to murder children and teachers. While this was transpiring, listening to the screams of children as their lives left their bodies, parents who attempted to defy police orders not to enter the school to save their own children were actually handcuffed and tased. And in part because the police are systematically being vilified, denigrated, called bastards, told that their lives don't matter, even if they happen to be black. Having their life torn apart if they make a split-second decision that didn't end well. Maybe one can understand why not one of these cowardly cops dared to defy the orders and enter into the school in an attempt to save the children's lives. The government has absolutely lost my trust. Stick with me because I'll be revisiting this point momentarily. But first, compare Uvalde to an event that transpired on the exact same day in West Virginia when a hoodlum with a rap sheet a mile long opened fire on an apartment complex, and a female mama bear took him out with her own firearm before he could manage to kill a soul. And even if you have cops that desire nothing more than to protect the public, they're almost always at least a couple of minutes away, which gives the shooter ample time to take many lives. And yet the left wants us, reliant on police forces, under their control in most major cities, to protect us against the predators. Isn't part of the American ethos self-reliance? And so let's take a look at two Western countries that have seriously beefed up gun control laws. Canada, for example, their laws have gotten way stricter under Justin Trudeau. When protest against his vindictive and punitive mandates that required you to take a vaccine that hasn't even lived up to the hype were entirely peaceful, he labeled the truckers
the small fringe minority of people who are on their way to Ottawa or who are holding unacceptable views, holding unacceptable views,
froze their bank accounts and tried to steal the funds that were raised for their peaceful protest. Meanwhile, the cuck knelt for BLM and basically ignored the burning down of Catholic churches in his country done by Antifa. And you want me to continue to trust this government that tunes into Maoist authoritarian radio frequencies? No. As exemplified by just yesterday, Trudeau and his party introduced a bill that would ban all new handgun ownership. And you want me to trust that lying, woke, China-loving son of a bee with my family's safety? What if these Australians gave up their guns?
In Australia, we had the biggest massacre on earth, and the Australian government went, "That's it, no more guns." And we all went, yeah, right then, that seems fair enough, really.
And they were heralded as a progressive wonderland. And earlier this year, citizens were being thrown into quarantine camps merely for having been suspected of interacting with somebody who might have been COVID positive, irregardless if they tested negative for the disease. You want me to go with you? No, I'm not. And my AK agrees. And from reading the Gulag Archipelago, the lengthy book written in 3 volumes by Alexander Solzhenitsyn about the gulags where the Russians were sent, forced labor camps where millions perished, the adventure always began the same way. A late night knock on the door by the police and no way to fight back because, well, guess what? The Russians, under Lenin and Stalin, had confiscated all of the guns. You know who else took all the guns? Hitler. Was he a good guy? I'm trying to remember. Did he kill people or something? And good old Chairman Mao killed even more, believe it or not. Cambodia? You better believe they disarmed the public. How else are you going to kill 30% of your population in the killing fields and elsewhere? I've personally been there. I've bent down and I've picked up bone fragments off of the floor, off of the ground. It's a very emotional and sorrowful experience. And when you see all the skulls there, piled up high, all the remains, you realize the evil of humanity and the need to protect oneself. It's truly horrifying to come face to face with the dystopian results of the powerful exercising totalitarian control against the defenseless. So you ask of me or others to give up our ability to defend ourselves, our ability to change the calculus of a criminal who might have designs on stealing from us, attacking your family, or invading your house. And just the thought that perhaps somewhere you might have a gun might change his calculation if he knows that there is a bullet potentially ready to fly at him. The German SS, the Russian secret police, the Cambodians, and today the Australians would be a lot more circumspect about invading a house if they thought that there was a potential for them to be shot as well. And unfortunately, the American government has shown the proclivity to side with one faction of the culture war, as I've mentioned earlier. They locked people up in their homes. They tried to impose vaccine mandates and are tilting what was once a relatively fair judiciary. They're tilting it towards one side of the political aisle. And if you want me to agree that we should make it even easier for you to exercise totalitarian control in the land of the free, the home of brave America, recent events have only cemented my opinion that the Second Amendment is absolutely vital to ensure our freedoms against a state that could turn tyrannical. And while I pray that I will never have to use my gun, I absolutely will be keeping it as an insurance policy. Please share this video and thumb it up and subscribe and do hit the all notification bell. Have a blessed day and please leave your comments below. Peace.